Hey everyone, Rituro here with a special report for Toronto Thumbs. There are few game series more instantly recognizable than Techno's Kunio-kun series. One look at Nintendo World Cup or Super Dodgeball is all it takes for you to know you're going to be playing something great with Kunio and the gang from Niketsu High School. So out of all the Kunio-kun games, my personal favorite's easily the side-scrolling beat-em-up River City Ransom, a classic NES game. You're beating up opposing high school thugs by any means necessary, whether that's rocks, chains, trash cans, whatever. Then you take their lunch money, you buy some food, you buy some upgrades, and you take down Slick and his gang at the eponymous River City High. The original game was released in 1989, though there have been some ports and remakes since then. The last remake was 2004 for Game Boy Advance. The last port was in 2008 for the Wii's Virtual Console. The game's held up fairly well, but it has been over 2 decades since the original. That's usually when we get into sequel territory. Well, with me today are the group of people who have an officially licensed sequel on the way. It's called River City Ransom Underground. With me now from Conatus Creative, from all the way over in our nation's capital in Ottawa, Dustin Crenna, Daniel Crenna, and Mark Deverno. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So let's talk about this sequel. For those that haven't been following the progress, what is River City Ransom Underground?
River City Ransom Underground is a Western effort to reboot the series that we love so much that you've just spoken of. It is a game that takes place as 24 years in the future from the original game, so we've let time progress as it would have normally to this period of time where we have a revisiting of the original story and also the ability to introduce a new cast for to take the old game, to make it bigger, to make it more in depth, to give it all the horsepower we have from our computing power from today, and to give it a proper sequel that it deserved, in at least in the mid-90s.
So when you say you're putting all the horsepower behind this, is it going to look like a Kunio-kun game, or is this going to have Conatus' own unique stamp on it?
It'll be a blend of both. Obviously, one of the things we feel really strongly about is that, a Kunio-kun game that doesn't look like a Kunio-kun game is not a Kunio-kun game.
It's very true.
So, there's a lot of effort put into, from Bannon in the art direction and Dustin and Rich in the sound department to recreate the same ambience, especially the blocky, charming characters. A game that came out after Double Dragon, but was way more cartoony, less serious, even though the topic was very serious. Ransoms and violent fighting amongst high school students, obviously, but the ability to somehow make that, offbeat and relaxed, and it just had such a unique character to it. And so, we're half of our job is historian, and the other half of our job is, I guess, in the terms of being an innovator. But the idea is we really have to excavate the original, dust it off, make sure it plays the same, it feels the same, that there's no question that this is an officially licensed sequel. We could have called our game something completely different, made a spiritual successor, but we felt like we needed the additional challenge, I suppose, of making an officially licensed sequel, and with that is the challenge of making sure that you can tell it's a Kunio-kun game.
So when you say it's officially licensed, I understand you actually went to what used to be Technos and got the license from them. What does it mean to have an officially licensed sequel? In practical terms, what is that going to mean for development and for the end product?
Sure. Well, that means that Million Co. Limited, the company that was born from the demise of Technos Japan, Million was formed from ex-employees, and around 2001 they purchased all of the original IP from Technos Japan to carry it on. They've since gone on to do great things like the GBA remake, which they consider to be the definitive edition of the game. And so for us, what we've done, we've had a very fortunate and grateful experience working with them as a licensor. We understand that they don't normally give their license, like allow their licensed or material to be licensed, and and we know that we're a startup, and so that in itself is a story and a positive story to tell. But to be an officially licensed sequel means that we are able to make a game that exists in the canon, I suppose, that will be alongside the other games, that will be considered by those who own the game to be an official installment in the Kunio-kun franchise. And it'll be the first, I guess, overseas version, but it will be officially licensed, and that means from a production point of view that yes, everything that we produce will have to be approved, and we believe that that's a positive thing in the sense that, as Dustin has mentioned before, it kind of gives us the ability to have guiding lights as we build the thing. If we steer too far away from what could be considered an official sequel, we'll be able to bring it back. And so it's kind of like having training wheels on, building a product that we know that is beloved and people really want to see done right. So that's great. And so we've always maintained that, a licensor-licensee relationship usually means that as a licensee, you do what the vision is of the game and you hope that it gets approved. And in our case, we think that that's actually that's something to look forward to, because we can actually have the ability to steer this in a direction that if the original IP owners are happy with it, that means that we're happy with it, because that means we got to put our stamp on something, but also be part of that universe that we loved when, like, we played this game to death when I was 10 years old. And so it really is a dream come true for us to take the love of the original games that we had as kids and to actually be able to make one that's like a real thing that's really part of this universe is completely incredible to us.
I can imagine that would be a dream come true. But like you said, you're a startup. How did you convince the employees, the former employees of Technos, to give a startup over on Canada's East Coast the keys to the company car, so to speak?
Yeah, it's a good phrase. I think one of the major reasons, and this I think holds true for our Kickstarter as well, is that we only had one job, and that was to communicate, convincingly that we're authentically fans of this game, that we put enough focus and attention to detail and sheer effort, force of will into making a game that really could be an official licensed product. So everything from the finite details of how the game looks and feels, especially how it sounds like, and how characters are designed, and the story, that this wasn't, we could have come up with a lot of other ways if we were just trying to make money, for example, which is something that we expected to have leveled against us during this campaign, although the response has been overwhelmingly positive. But just the idea that this was certainly nothing that we did lightly. It's taken us even before the Kickstarter, it took us 5 months of hard work just to be able to show a Kickstarter page, just to be able to launch that, and the amount of time and money that went into acquiring the license and going through the necessary hurdles for the approval. It was not easy by any means, and I think that at the end of the day, Million, I believe, recognized that we were trying to make something that was true to the original, and not deviate too much from that, to honor what they created and to make it, to put our own spin on it, sure. But I think that they were impressed. I guess they were happy with the art design, and I think obviously enough people were happy with it on Kickstarter as well to give us this real opportunity now to deliver this game. So at the end of the day, I mean, I don't want to question it too much why, but we're just really excited that came through, and that they saw what we were doing, and it resonated with them, and I think they got it, and I think our 5,000 plus backers got it. And so that's where we are now.
So let's talk about that Kickstarter. You went out asking for, I believe it was $180,000. By the end of the campaign on October 9th, you were just over $217,000. So you did it with room to spare. Were there any nervous moments during that campaign where you thought, oh, I don't know, this isn't going to work?
Well, definitely during the middle there. Like we all felt it, and we all feel the same way. There's always that statistical downward slope of every campaign that you're going to hit, and when we hit that, we remained positive. Right from the very beginning, I remember like Dan and I were sitting in a restaurant. It was like a family thing. And we're like, are we going to make this? Like, are we going to succeed? And we're like, of course we are. Like, we didn't give it any doubt, but but you hit that fall and you get nervous and you start to panic a little bit, but overly remain positive, and we made it. But I don't think unless you're one of those Kickstarters that fund within the first 2 hours, I don't think anybody goes through and says, oh yeah, like it was no sweat. Like I think that everybody will go through a little bit of panic during a Kickstarter, and that's just the way Kickstarter is.
And otherwise we wouldn't have gotten that wonderful gif of, I believe it's Alex punching a giant pig. So, I mean, good comes out of everything. Have you ever considered what you'd had to have done if the funding hadn't come through from the Kickstarter? Would you have had to go through an alternate funding route, or would you have had to just shelve the project entirely?
We had some possible alternative avenues, maybe. I think anytime we thought about what we would do, if we had a backup plan, it would be too easy to fall back on it, kind of thing. So our strategy up until Kickstarter was to basically plug our ears and say la 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 every time we thought about what we would do if it didn't happen. And I think when you cut off that possibility in your mind, it leaves you with all the energy left to like decide what you're going to do now about what's happening. But I mean, so the thing about Kickstarter is that it's for projects in spirit. I know it's evolving now, especially for games. It's more like a pre-sale platform now than it is about donations. But the spirit of Kickstarter is it's supposed to be for projects that couldn't get done any other way. And when you see like Grand Theft Auto 5 with $170 million or $200 million to make that game,
right?
We don't even register on the publisher spectrum of. Obviously there's smaller publishers and publishers that kind of get what we're doing, but we just felt like Kickstarter was the ultimate way to get to fans like us who played this game, and obviously gives us more freedom. I think we already have the challenge of, like I said, the welcome challenge of a licensor, but bringing in a publisher as well, we may lose our ability to have an effect on the game, and I think. If a publisher is the main source of funding, then we really do put the creative project at risk. So Kickstarter lets us know if people even want the direction that we're going, and because they did, we don't have to now consider what we would have done. But I suppose we would have pounded the pavement, and I don't know, like worked at 2 a.m. or something on trying to scratch a demo together.
I hear Mervs is hiring.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is that the license is a ticking clock. So we may definitely would have risked running out of time trying to do it in the bits and pieces of time that we had. So luckily I can continue to plug my ears and say la 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 because we were able to succeed. But we would have just like a Kickstarter that doesn't really get off the ground, that struggles, we would have played our hand until the end. We would have waited until the last possible day for the license to expire. Every day we would have tried something, worked on something, tried to make it happen. So I mean, we wouldn't have given up without a fight.
Excellent. Now you talk about how you're beholden to your licensor now, to Million. But you also now have 5,000 plus backers on board who are hoping, and I'm one of them, they're hoping that their money goes towards a true River City Ransom sequel. Do you feel that adds any extra pressure, any undue pressure, or are you really welcoming this chance to have effectively 5,000 extra helpers on this project?
Well, that's one of the great things about being able to give a beta to people, and it's also one of the great things about having a licensor to answer to. The backers can play the beta. They can give us feedback. We can take that, use it to make a better game. We'll use Million, obviously, to approve everything we do so that we stay on track. I think it's great. Like, if we were just, if we were just going to go at this in the dark without anybody giving us any, suggestions, comments, then maybe to us four, we might have, thought we made a game that was right, but maybe to everyone else, they would have, picked holes through the whole thing. This is a really great thing. I don't feel that there's pressure having, like, essentially there are 5,000 people there that are going to give us great ideas and great suggestions and tell us, this game is awesome, or you guys need to fix this. And I think that's, for me, I think that's a really awesome thing.
Well, as one backer, if I can suggest that you find a way to put that piggy bank boss somewhere in the game as like an Easter egg boss, I would love that.
We might run into muscle licensing issues.
So the tentative release date for River City Ransom Underground is summer of 2014. It's a fairly nebulous block of time. What needs to happen primarily between now and then to make this game happen?
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
I didn't know who was taking that one, but
yeah, lots of development.
Mm-hmm.
As we're speaking about nebulous things, no, we have we have a game design document that has to be approved, and that will be the sort of compass that we need to follow. We obviously have lots of design that we've done up till now, but we have sort of the everything in the kitchen sink thing where we have all the possible cool things we can do with this game on the table, and now it's the time to craft it into something that will fit into a little tiny bit less than a year of a full production run. But right now we have our sights set for, I guess, what you'd call a first playable prototype, where all of our core mechanic is ironed out, and we want to get as soon as possible to a state where we are just in the stages of adding content to the game, which means level design, story scripting, new music, probably like new characters, but all of the sort of pipeline and the foundations of the game are there. We have a functional engine, obviously, and that kind of thing, but we really want to get into the point where we can iterate fast. We can have art go directly from Bannon into the machine, and then it's playable for Dustin and Bannon and our testers to work on balancing issues. You don't want that one item to be too strong and for the cost, so the expected value is off and it throws everything off, or the combat have one dominant move that makes the rest of the moves not worth using. And so there's I think the sooner we get to the point where we can start working on the game at that level, the happier we'll be, because then we can add all the extra things that we've thought of and that backers have thought of. We've had a lot of cool ideas coming in. We have like the world's biggest River City Ransom fan club, I've always said, sitting on our page, and so like Dustin said, we'll definitely leverage that. But really, our two biggest hurdles that we need to get to as soon as possible are the getting to the point where we're, like I said, putting content in and just worrying about the content aspects as opposed to the technical aspects, and to make sure that the combat engine can handle what it needs to handle, which is squarely in Mark's wheelhouse at the moment.
So, Mark, tell me a little bit about where your involvement with this is going to come in. What point in the pipeline can we expect to see some of your contributions?
Basically, we're trying to aim to get a little bit of an alpha build out there as soon as possible. We're not quite there yet, but my role is really to make all the things that Dan was just talking about there, to be able to provide the world and gameplay elements that coincide with it. Technical wise, we're actually along that road. We're getting pretty close to where we want to be. We're still maybe a couple months off, but my role is basically to really focus on the combat system right now, so that we can get the content in.
Well, speaking of that combat system, there was one line in your Kickstarter page that really caught me, that you're going to be focusing on more advanced AI, so you couldn't just stand on a bench and wail on somebody free of being attacked back. What are you looking at specifically to address that time-honored tactic of River City Ransom?
A little exploit, yes. Well, the interesting thing about my position in the project, where, as opposed to Dustin's and Bannon's, where they really have to do a lot of due diligence to keep River City Ransom looking and sounding like the original. I get to take the good points of River City Random and expand upon them, and it's a lot easier to do without intruding upon the original. So I'm able to add things in like a combo system. So rather than just walking and going up to a guy and punching, which is all you can do in the original one, you can start a combo, do a few moves, punch the guy in the air, and then have your buddy come in and finish up the combo for you. So we've got two-player interactions, and we actually teased a little bit of concept video. Ben did a really good job of that, and that's what we're really aiming to do with the combat system. In addition to, of course, expanding upon the items, actually making items matter as opposed to just giving the stat increases. And AI is my favorite thing. So I'm looking to introduce a lot of AI, kind of like group tactics, and potentially having some gang leaders dish out orders and go after you in some interesting factions, so that each different gang has its own kind of unique feel.
Beyond just a colored T-shirt.
Exactly, and a name such as generics or the internationals.
Or the jocks, or the whatever you had. You talked about, bringing in other people to help on this. You also got some very big names announced during the Kickstarter. Tell me a little bit about this extra help that's flocked to the team.
Sure, yeah. I mean, for the most part, the people that we lined up for this project were people that we felt we needed to be a part of it, that would add so much to the game. And we had the vast majority of those talented people lined up before we started. And I guess our Kickstarter strategy was sort of like to keep, because everyone's, like Dustin said, everyone's scared of the trough of despair in between the beginning and the end. So we were hoping that we would kind of keep things in the middle by constantly releasing these, I guess, announcements for the talent that was on the team. So that's kind of why we did it that way. But so I mean, I can run down some of these key people that we brought on board, because I think from the very beginning we've said that we care more about like this game being successful than trying to do it alone,
right,
kind of thing, and that really is true. So we brought I guess our first edition was Rich Vreeland, also known as Disaster Piece, who composed Fez, and will be composing Hyperlight Drifter, the Kickstarter sensation that was running the same time as us. And he also did Runner 2 and Shoot Many Robots, and he's well known beyond the games that he's shipped. He's well known in the chiptune scene for doing amazing 8-bit NES style compositions. And during the time that we were putting the pitch together for Million, I was listening to Neutralite, one of his really great NES collaboration albums, pretty much on repeat. It was all I listened to during that time to kind of it's great soundtrack music when you're working on a pitch for a 8-bit game. So so that was important to me. But after listening to it enough times, and I've been a fan of Disaster Piece way before we even had this idea to make the game. I was like, well, he has to do it. I don't even know if I ever considered him not doing it. Of course, I hadn't even asked him at the time, but you just felt a part of the project from the beginning. So
another one of those fingers in your ears and la 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 moment. We're getting Disaster Piece.
Yeah, pretty much. My entire strategy so far has been to be completely blissfully ignorant and cross my fingers. But
so far it's working out.
Totally. But
we recommend it.
Yeah. So we were really, really happy to get Rich on board, and so so we're actually really quite stacked in the audio department. And then in the next phase, it's really difficult, obviously, to make an original game that also looks and feels exactly like a sequel to a game from 20 years ago. We needed some authenticity. We needed some real guidance in how we built the game, and so I felt it was important to bring Yoshihisa Kishimoto to the team, and he is the director of Double Dragon, and he kind of started this whole beat 'em up thing way back when he created the arcade cabinet for Renegade, which is the very first Kunio-kun game, and obviously it spawned both Double Dragon and Kunio-kun, and you know, it's chiefly responsible for the beat 'em up genre and for the games that continue to this day in the Kunio-kun legacy. In fact, Kishimoto-san just worked on another Kunio-kun game. I think if it was either last summer or the summer just passed, he worked on the Fighting Concerto game for the 3DS. So he's still very much active and doing his thing. And so we were amazed that he had close ties with Million, and we were able to get an introduction. And so we're really happy to have him on board as a creative consultant to kind of give us that missing element that you couldn't do without having someone like him on board to make sure that we're going to achieve that sort of imperceptible ability to create a true sequel. So that was huge for us.
Would you say, also, sorry to interrupt there, Daniel, would you say having the grandfather of the Kunio-kun games on gives you a sense of legitimacy of this project?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think that kind of gets us get out of jail free card in terms of having to prove that we're still the team to do it. But I do feel that his endorsement and his involvement do at least to give us the confidence that we're doing the right thing. Because what better person to have approval in general of the concepts are, than the original creator and the original employees of the company that built these games that we love. So
for sure,
it's a huge boost for us, and I think it motivates us, if anything, to make sure that we're going to make a game that the fans deserve. Because we have had our fair share of detractors in the sense of we're not the creators, so we couldn't possibly make a game that would stand up, and so that was sort of my answer to that. I guess I knew that would come up because fans are passionate, and they should be. We are too, and that was sort of the best that we could do to answer to calm those nerves and to say, we got this. We're not going to do anything that would stomple. That's a new word. Trample and stomp at the same time is stomple.
Very good. I like it.
Yeah, we've invented many words like will, shall in the course of this. But yeah, so just stomping on your childhood is not something that we're in the market, and we're not trying to do that. And we know that we won't please everyone, but so Mr. Kishimoto was going to help us not do that, I guess.
Perfect.
And we have, I'll wrap that up. I'll try to be brief, but we have more talented folks. Obviously, Justin Sear from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. The
Great game.
Yeah. And we love working with Justin now because we're going to be able to close that feedback loop where River City Ransom inspires Scott Pilgrim, inspires the game, and then we have an animator from that game who's going to work on the sequel that is inspired by Scott Pilgrim, and everything is great.
It's all tied together. It's all wonderful.
It is. I know, and with Dan Paladin pledging as a boss in the game, it's just a very nice end note to that. The Castle Crashers artist is involved. In a small way, of course, but that really put some gas in our tank and made us feel motivated that we had his his support for the game, and we got some great artists on board. Nina Matsumoto to do the Japanese cover of the game because we are going to ship this in Japan, and she's a great Eisner-winning comic artist, and the work she's already done is incredible. We got Greg Winters, who basically created every memorable cover art from the SNES era, like Super Empire Strikes Back and Alien vs. Predator.
Ah, yes.
Covers that we just stared at as kids, obviously in awe and amazement. And so I was really happy to find him to do the cover art. So we're trying to put together this team that really will do the best job that it can.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic team, and summer 2014 isn't that far away, gentlemen, and I don't want to keep you from your work anymore. I'm a backer at the wood stick level, and I cannot wait to get my hands on that beta. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Daniel Crenna, Dustin Crenna, Mark Deverno, thank you so much for talking with me today.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you all for watching. My name is Rituro. I hope you enjoyed this interview for Toronto Thumbs, and we'll see you next time.